Right, gang, welcome back to the Built for Pressure podcast with me, Wolfone. Today I'm joined by friend, client, and somebody I love to explore his mind, Mr. Max Learmonth. How are you, mate? You good?
Very well, thank you, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Just so everyone gives a bit of a flavour, because you're a sharpshooter, mate. I want to explore not only leadership, but high performance itself. Give everybody a bit of an oversight about what you do, who you are, and a bit of background in relation to where you've come from, because I think that's always massively important through the leadership space, is more the story behind the person leading from the front.
Yeah. So, look, first and foremost, I'm founder of Forge Talent. Set the business up in May 2023. Fast forward to today, we're the fastest growing finance and accounting recruiter in the UK. But if I scale it back, I've been in the recruitment industry for 14 years. So I was with one of the largest corporates, finance corporates, for 7 of those, and went from trainee to director over that time period, multi-locations, multiple offices, sort of looking after 60, 70 people at its peak. Joined a smaller boutique after that, because I wanted to get an understanding of what it actually felt like to run a business. Because at that bigger business, I had a corporate safety net, endless pot of cash, nothing could ever really go wrong.
You can't get a dent.
Yeah, you can't get a dent. And then, so I joined that smaller business to really understand like what to do, what not to do, and what it actually meant to sort of run after a business. And then Forge Talent was born sort of after that. But precursor, similar to you, a few other people we know, played sport to a really high level, athletics and rugby, sort of internationally and professionally as well. And all of that, I think, was sort of the foundation for where I am now.
Massive. I think it's something that's really, I'm going to go a bit off tangent just because I'm curious, but I think this is a really nice little point, is when it comes down to business development, founding a business, and actually looking to get that level of exposure, like you said, in the big corporate bubble where everything, you make a mistake, it's fine, mate, don't worry, here's another little bit of cash and sort this out. What was the driving factor that gave you the sort of courage to pull the trigger? Because there's people that be watching this who are, they're at the beginning of their journey of founding a business, or they're the opposite. They've kind of like reached an altitude where they're bored. Yeah. And what I want to do is, like you said, because that's what really, I think me and you connected massively, not only from the athletic piece, and obviously be introduced by Mike because everyone's introduced by him. Yeah. But the bit that really intrigues me more is that level of intensity, because it takes, it's like the analogy of a rocket ship. The biggest amount of energy to get a rocket ship off the floor is the start. Yeah. Give somebody an oversight if they're looking. What did you go through when you were looking to pull that trigger? Because I think that's a huge part of the puzzle.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of things to it. There's never going to be a right or wrong time to set up a business. 9 times out of 10, there's always going to be a reason why you don't do it. So like the catalyst for me, I was pissed off where I was. That in that smaller boutique business, I'd essentially built a business for somebody else, and I didn't feel like I was getting looked after in the right way, remunerated in the right way. My daughter was then born back end of December 2022, and it was like, if I don't do it now, like when the fuck am I going to do it? Yeah. Like I remember going home that night after I'd had a conversation at the boutique about potentially purchasing a part of the business and so on, and just thinking, right, let's just go all in. Like, so I had a 3-month-old, and it was like, well,
lock and load.
Let's just go full send.
Full send.
Love
it.
So
full
literally,
send.
so the catalysts were pissed off where I was, Delilah being born, and then Danielle, my wife, being the biggest supporter, and she still is, like, biggest cheerleader for me. Also, like, person probably challenges me the most with my thought process.
Because you can't bite her head off, mate. She'll slap you back, mate. Have it with the wife, but the wife is right, boss. You
exactly.
Tell her,
So like those 3 things, like just a combination of those, it was like, right, now's the time to do it. And there was a huge opportunity in the market that I'm in the industry that I'm in, to take a huge bit of market share if it's done in the right way.
Mega. I think something that I see a lot of the time with people who, because you're very much, you share very similar traits in being wired for challenge. I think something I think we could explore a little bit around you personally too. It's like one of my other customers, Anna, we're talking about Icarus flying close to the sun. Is we haven't got an off switch. Yeah. And when you haven't got that off switch, what happens is, like you said, you have to have pressure to deliver. Yeah. Because otherwise, if you don't have pressure, you're bored. Or there's the curiosity of what actually this could look like long term. What do you see across the industry right now that is causing people like me and you to struggle? I think, again, because it's how me and you got introduced, was that you're moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour with a company that's growing, it's the fastest in the UK currently. Yeah. what sort of pressures are you feeling on a daily basis, and how are you sort of mitigating them? Or you talk about maybe probably before when we started working together and now, just because it gives a bit of context.
Yeah.
But I feel there's a huge point for people to take away, because like the reality is, if I give you more time, you fill it full of more stuff. We give you more space, you fill it full of more growth. I think that there for me is the biggest piece that would not only help other people understand, but also be a wicked piece to explore.
I think you and I working together, we made a load of changes, and I know we're going to talk about that, but I think I'm always one of these people that is constantly going to have to be on a knife edge. Like, and it is a very, very dangerous place to be. Like, I know that now, but it's really, really dangerous. But being on that knife edge, like, I need routine. Like, and the routine has to be paramount. And like, I know you thought I was mental when we first started working together about the level of sleep that I get, like just what I do to my body, like just not listening to it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I think
off.
Yeah.
Do not listen. I'm deaf to that. We're not doing that. No.
It's like I have to be in this state of like attack mode. Like, or I've always had to be in that state. And I think that's because of productive environment and all that type of stuff, that it's just, I'm just all out attack. I've got a clear goal of where I want to get to, and I'm not going to fucking listen like until I do it. And that it can be detrimental to like you as a person.
100%.
And that's one of the reasons why we started talking about it.
Commitment is a double-edged sword, because the commitment is needed for elite levels of performance. It's like unless you dive, don't even try and jump.
Yeah.
But the reality is, like you said, it's a case of, I think from your standpoint, it's interesting because I'd be curious to know a little bit more. You mentioned before on that about how it's a product of your environment. Give us a little bit more about that, because I can build for pressure itself is purely stemmed from personal experience and curiosity to be better.
Yeah.
And I've gone through huge amounts of change, mentorship, evolution to find that. But it all stems from being in an environment with my parents, where my dad was a creative director, and he had a term when I was a kid would be daring, be different, would be decisive. Yeah. And he was, if you met him, happiest geezer. But if you ask him from a business standpoint, he comes from a mining village. He was told he was never good. All that underdog proverbial. I had the underdog piece, but not through my parents, but it was through rugby. Give us a bit of an oversight about where you said from the product of your environment. Where was it found?
Yeah, I think it's probably two stages of my life, the product of the environment. First one, like definitely at home, so similar to you. Dad came from like a pretty tough background, like grew up in a council estate, and like he was the first person in his family to go to university, became a doctor, dentist. So there's that. He was a professional athlete as well, so like he was a 100-meter sprinter, so he always had that discipline. I was his first son, came along, like one of three boys. So everything, like from the age of literally like 1 year old, like up to 17, 18, was competition.
100%,
like absolutely everything. Like the
kill or be killed.
Yeah, the three of us were competing all the time.
Nice.
But we were thrown into every single sport that you can think of. Clearly, he wanted us to do athletics because that was his bag.
That's part of the game, yeah.
And like I naturally gravitated to rugby, but it was that constant state of competition. We wanted to beat each other, and then it was we wanted to be the best at school, best in county, and where we're from, like we were, like from a sporting point of view, like me and my brothers, we've all played elite level sport, and that's where it sort of came from. Like we'd go on holiday, like family holiday, to Club La Santa in Lanzarote. He'd have us doing like mini duathlons and triathlons. Like that was our summer holiday. So
good.
So like you then
that's a bit of me.
Like,
I'm there.
But you then think like, and then it's like well, that's probably not normal, right? But it's like, but we loved it, and it's all we knew. So then when I decided that I was going to step away from playing rugby, I wasn't going to be the next Johnny Wilkinson, like, and I fell into recruitment. The next product of the environment, or becoming the product environment that I went into, was this big corporate beast where if you're not in the top %, you're nothing.
Yeah.
So I then come from like family at home to then sport and discipline, then into this recruitment environment where it's kill or be killed.
100%. It's the same principle, different rules.
It's exactly that. So you then go through it, but then you get to a little point and you're like, is this the way it's supposed to be?
Yeah.
And you know, part of the reasons of setting up Forge was wanting things to be different in the approach. But yeah, I was absolutely, like, if I think about every stage of my life, like I'd be a product of the situation that I'm in.
Nice. But obviously both parents, you start to recognise certain signals of when you were a child that forged you.
Yeah.
Forged talent, forged you,
there
lad.
we go.
You
I like that. I like
He's
that.
got it. Come on.
He's not getting paid for
Stop
that.
it. Come on, LinkedIn loves that. But no, seriously, I think the we live in a society now where everything's soft, and the elite part of performance is actually drowning in noise of mediocrity. From a personal standpoint, I find it very difficult. Like they said, the analogy you were saying, like if you're all in, we're attacking it. That's such an exclusive personality trait for someone who's leading a business, growing a business, or trying to actually even sell out of a business, generally speaking, IPO, whatever. But it all stems from an attitude and a culture at home.
Yep.
This is what we do. Not you're gonna be the athlete, but you're not. It's like, no, your dad's got three, but it's lock and load.
Yeah.
Even if you're the smallest, you got to get. I think it's funny how that level of competition breeds a form of success, but also some more of grit and resilience. And I think we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about, I think, the sort of pressures of a leadership piece. But I'd like to we'll go through a little piece around you and about the even how me and you got involved with each other. I think is really important, because it's very, very normal for people like yourself to take on more, and you take on more, and you take on more, and you keep attacking, you keep performing, you keep getting results. But I think that's kind of where the rubber met the road with me and you, because I knew you for a while before that.
Yeah.
What was the main underlying feeling of, like, okay, cool, hang on a minute, I need to start playing a bit of a different game here? Because I feel, like I said, we haven't really gone through we'll go through your morning routine and how you work, because like I said, you mentioned about sleep. We can talk about that afterwards, because I think that's very important, because it's a very big oxymoron in the industry at the moment. Give us a bit of an oversight about where you were when we first caught up, and sort of how that compares to you jumping in.
I was full send, right?
Full send.
Like running a business, there was no off switch. Not really present at home. Like I'd have downtime with the kids, but I was still checking my phone, all that type.
Feet
of stuff.
were there, head was not. Yeah,
like all the time, and like my routine, like just because you touched on it, like alarm was going off at 3:45 in the morning, like, and it was getting out for a 7.5, 10, 12k run to burn off what I'd done the day before, because in my industry there's a lot of client lunches, there's a lot of dinners, there's a lot of boozing.
Yeah.
And it was like, I've got to burn this off so that I can then not have brain fog, right, the following day. So,
and it's like the emotional purge as well. It's very common in that is like training is a pressure valve to allow schmoozing clients.
Yeah.
Whereas actually that's all part of your game, but it's about taking that back. Yeah, sorry, I've come to that.
No, not at all. So that, and if I think about, like, you and I had been talking sort of July, August, and I was like, now's not the right time. If I then think about like November and December, like it was non-stop. It was breakfast, lunch, dinners, like too much booze, like not eating the right stuff. I was then having to like train like a dog the following morning. Like, and I was having to train like 7 days a week. So then when I'm getting in at home, I'm not present with the kids. I'm not present with Danielle. And bear in mind, I've just said Danielle is my biggest advocate and will go to war for me 24/7. Like, so, and then end up being a prick at home. Like, everything is about the business and what we're doing. And gets to the end of December and I'm just like what is going on? But it still wasn't that sort of realization in December. It was then coming into January thinking, right, new year, like let's hit it from a business point of view. And I was falling back into the same habit. Like, even though I was like, right, it's not going to be as full tilt, I was still doing the same routine. So that was where, like, I got in touch with you in January, and it was like, right, mate, like, let's do it.
Yeah. I think you're not an alien in that relation. In relation to, you're already operating at the 1% level of what business leadership is expected to do in 2026 and beyond. The piece that you said there is the Achilles heel of a high performer. It's because your competition narrative is being taken for you to be when you're going to be in a dad.
Yeah.
And however much that's important, the reality is your kids won't have a clue what your job is. They just want dad to be there to read a book, mate.
Yeah.
And the people who are wired like that, it's a slow puncture, and their performance then does. We can use that rocket analogy. A rocket may be moving 100 miles an hour, but to steer it takes a lot of gas.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're growing a business in this dynamic type of culture, it's about being an F1 car. And like being an F1 car, the most expensive piece of it, the engine and the bodywork, but the reality is the bit that performs the most are the wheels and the brakes.
Yeah.
And you had no brakes.
Yeah.
It was again, most people haven't got the getting up at 3:45 straight in the gym, hitting a gym session on the tools, and it's not even the principle of, like you said, the lack of sleep. It's everything that comes with it. Because again, knowing you, it was getting to the gym, straight out of the gym, straight onto your comms, straight onto marketing, straight onto LinkedIn, straight onto get home, kids, cool, they're sorted, back in. There was never any form of like, it's like a bow and arrow analogy of you weren't even pulling the bow back to let it go. You were just locking, shooting the thing as hard as you possibly could. And I think that's where this sort of level of performance lies, is most people think it's one singular piece. If we looked into your process, then it was more, you were just super busy. Everything was at ish percent. Yeah. Sleep was av. Recovery was av. Nutrition was whatever was going in your mouth.
Terrible.
Or not even eating. If you were eating, it was client dinners, which again, reality is none of them, no one's going to there eating chicken salads and rice. This is everything else that comes with it. And getting on the piss. That's just part of your game. And also, I think there's also a piece of it where societal roles of alcohol are like, this is how I decompress. Instead of having a beer because I want a beer, it's like, it's this time of the week and this is what we do. I think there was more of a thing that we got to a head of was, it wasn't around changing your process. It was about how do we actually stabilize you inside of that process to give you some space. And I think what's happened over the last few months for us is actually, you're operating at a different frequency, not through force anymore. Rather than, it's more of a case of, you have more capacity to do it, so you can then start, because that's what happens with us a lot, mate. Like you said, the bigger the gap that we create, the more you're going to fill it. But that's the ambition, right? That's how you grow. What was what do you feel like the biggest sort of personal integration has been the biggest change for you in relation operating since you got into the program?
Great question, mate. I think the time management, but of my personal time. Like, I think that is like the absolute number one. It's like, when I'm back from training in the morning, it's like I'm with the kids, I'm present, I'm not on my phone. It's like when I'm put the kids to bed, it's like, I log back on for a little bit, but not for like 2-3 hours like I was before. I'm then present with Danielle, we're having us time. I'm then not on my phone before bed like I was, and I didn't even realise like the impact of like that kind of stuff on what it actually does to your sleep. So for me, it's like the time management, but around personal family time. Like that's been like one of the biggest things.
This is such an overlooked part of high performance, of something so little. But when you're there's a psychologist who is Kobe Bryant's psychologist who created the Black Mamba mentality, Todd Herman, he calls it the alter ego effect. Basically, who you are in that moment, we're a different being now than we are with our kids, because we have to be. We're not watching the Gruffalo and getting food launched. But the point being, if you think that if you identify as a business owner, me and you share a massive connection through rugby. Back in the day, I was a rugby player. That's it. When that was cut for you, you changed that identity to we're going into business, because it gave you the same level of buzz and all that kind of piece. And then it was, I'm a business owner. But then actually you realise that the thing that the glue that keeps you there is not only the wife, shout out to the wife, but like Danielle's and the kids. It's the actual principle of taking your foot off the gas, filling your cup up from a family standpoint, and then getting back into the fire. But again, just talk a little bit about the sleep piece. I think that's wicked, because I think when I first met you, it was like, it still is attack, but we didn't have any metrics that we managed. And I think one thing I loved it was cool, because now we gamify on your performances is we got your Whoop integration.
Which I never in a million years said I would ever get.
No, so, that was a hard sell, but on the basis of it gives you objective data feedback. And someone like yourself is resilience, grit, determination. The job must be done before I finish. That's all a given. But that was never the problem. The problem was, how do we optimize your position? Like you said, you mentioned about not having a phone before bed. You mentioned about when you get up in the morning. Before, it was just whatever you can get in you. Attack training. We're currently adding in carbohydrate, pre-hydrate, caffeinate. We've got sort of principles behind it. What's been the sort of biggest piece that you found by tracking your data? Because I think a lot of CEOs and executives, Whoop's just been evaluated for billions. It's going massive, because the name of the game for the future of wellness right now is a trackable metric. And we can talk about this. This is what we can talk about this about a corporate perspective too, is because now people are now way more curious about how their body's responding. Before, that death analogy was very good, because it was just, it's quarter to 4, we're getting out of bed. Not, hang on a minute, I know that because a lot of executives, what they find is that they're like, oh, you're telling us to have 9 hours of shavasana sleep, sat there underneath a waterfall and all this.
Well, that was one of the first things I said to you, right? I was like, if you're going to tell me I have to have 8-9 hours of sleep, like, this ain't going to work.
It's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's not going to, but then flipping it, it's a case of, okay, cool. How do we stabilise what you got?
Yeah.
It's that gap in the gain thing. If people in this scenario, they're looking at perfect ordeals. There is not a time in your day where things are perfect.
No.
Just come to our catch up. Been on the back of another talk. Straight back into more meetings. Something happens in that meeting. Then what happens? Your performance drops. Nah. You rise to the challenge. Give us a bit of what have you found by using sort of metrics that's how sort of helped your performance?
Two things, like we joked about it a lot, just about how little like I sort of ate previously, and my calories were definitely in booze.
But no judgment, judgment.
Yeah. I still like a gin and tonic, just for clarification.
Amen. Yeah. The slimline though, yeah.
yeah, slimline. Fueling myself properly, like absolutely massive, and like tracking it properly. I have never been a person that is track protein, track carbs. I've just been like, right, if I think it's healthy, but not actually thinking about like how much is going into my body or how little was going into my body.
Little, man. You ate like unbelievable amount of running on black coffee. That was running on adrenaline and aggression. That's all it was.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
it was. So like the fuel element has been absolutely massive, and thinking about the times in the day of like when I need to eat like a certain food, and it's not like it's completely dictated to, but it's like I'm now aware of like when I need to eat something, and like just oats before bed and like stuff like that, which never even thought about. Like, even playing rugby full time, never into this level of detail and data like whatsoever. I then think about the sleep, and I just always thought I was a shit sleeper.
Just don't sleep.
Yeah, or just
sleep's a weak people, isn't it?
It was like, I need 4 or 5 hours. It is what it is. And you were like, yeah, but there's different levels of sleep. And I'm like, well, what on earth are you talking about? And just like little things around your sleep, like not being on your phone before bed, like not being sat there at 11 o'clock at night, like banging out emails, and making sure like if I'm in bed, like I'm literally closing my eyes and I'm going, and when the alarm goes off, like I check my whoop straight away to check my recovery, check how many hours, check how deep the sleep's been. And there's a direct correlation to how I feel. And my motivation with training now is like 8 and 9 out of 10, like every single morning, I'm up, I'm out, away I go. Whereas before, I'd wake up and feel like shit because my sleep had been terrible. I was like, well, I've got no other option. I've just got to get it done.
Just get in.
You just got to get it done because I had 5 pints yesterday. It's like I just got to get in and just sweat it out the system. Whereas now I wake up and it's like, right, I'm good to go. Like just that fuel, that data. It's been mega. And I never thought in a million years I'd be somebody that is into it. Now, like on my Whoop app all the time, like checking like what's going on.
It's what I find, especially when I start working with people who have been inside elite level sport, they forget they're an athlete. And it's not. And back in the day, it was you were peaking for that Saturday. Like it was like, it doesn't matter what's going on in the week, we're going to be 100% primed. Thing about corporate athleticism is that level of commitment is a daily basis, not a weekly basis. Because everything matters. The conversation you have in a couple of hours' time could mean this, could mean that. Suddenly, compared to rugby, it was like Wednesdays we've got a day off. We just go and play FIFA or whatever you're playing on PlayStation 3. Whereas by having the extra 1% and being deliberate in your understanding, the more self-awareness you have, the more self-management you have. And actually, I think the cool thing is I'm lucky to work with a few of the people who work inside your company, and it's the same ramifications. It's the same language, but actually, that raises the ship, that raises the standard. And especially when it comes down to corporate wellness itself, because wellness is such a boring, fluffy, horrible word that just sounds soft. Because people just think being wellness is like being okay. Where people are like, I don't want to be okay. I want my clients to thrive and be like, man, I've got more gas here. We can execute way. That's the name of the game. And I think so many people they lose that when they finish sport. They forget the detail in their practice, and it just all becomes one long, like zombified process of just do whatever to get through with the end in mind. And it's wicked to hear that you had the attitude to be curious. Because like you said before, it was like, mate, you got to wear. You looked at me like, mate, I'm not wearing one of them.
I'm not wearing a whoop.
I'm not wearing a whoop. But we can use Aura Ring as well, but again, I'm not a fan. I prefer a whoop. others definitely can use. And I think like from our standpoint, once we've got you in that stable position and once you started to actually correlate between, because a big part we use for supplementation as well, again, wormhole in relation to people are using supplements, like back in the day, me and you were taking Jack 3D and just Strawpeda and C4, like it was Coca-Cola, where now we've got you on pre-sleep complexes, we've got you on morning routines. What do you find from a, now you've sort of had that level of information and you're practicing it yourself, when you're looking in corporate environments, what are you seeing that people aren't seeing in their performance? Like you said, from a health standpoint, a well-being standpoint, and just from a performance standpoint, because now you've sort of got the old version of you, which is operating at a certain level, and sort of the newer, the more recalibrated version, it's not a new version. What's the gap? What do you feel the gap is more from just a generalized corporate standpoint?
I think not education. I don't think people are as informed as they need to be about all of this stuff. Look, I've started introducing you to people who I think could get massive benefit now of working with you. It's not paid me to say that, but I think it's the education piece, right? Like I sit down with CEOs and CFOs all the time, and you look at people and you think, right, you can tell if people look after themselves or not. But a lot of it's not through a lack of want or a lack of trying, and they might be on the golf course and they might be out jogging, they might be out running, but they're not thinking about nutrition, they're not thinking about sleep, because a lot of them are, similar to what I was, they're full send in whatever they do.
And if it hurts, it's good.
Yeah, and it's just that I think massively so, it's that education piece. You're not taught this stuff in school.
No.
Right? And it doesn't matter what environment you're in, like you're not taught this in business either. And that's why we're talking about like you coming in and doing talks to my business as well, so people can get a deeper understanding of them nutrition, their sleep, just so that everybody's performance can increase. Because it's all directly correlated.
It's something that is not that socially accepted when it comes down to being in shape and being better at your job. But people's context of being in shape is very different to what social media will tell you. Being in shape, looking like Peter Andre or Ronnie Coleman, mate, you look six-pack and being a weapon, where actually the reality of a high-performing business owner right now, they are acting and looking like an athlete, feeling like an athlete. Does that mean they're shredded year-round? No. But that means that they're an asset in times of challenge. They've got clear thinking in crisis moments. They have the ability to respond when shit's going sideways. You're at the front of the ship, bringing everyone up to your level. What was the... Because I think that's where it comes down to me. When it comes down to your training, we're on a repeatable basis on a 4-week cycle, being really geeky about it. But you love the mundane and the boring, and I know I've just got to hit the same session, but I've got to get better at it. What I see a lot of the time in peak performing environments, especially in the health standpoint, is people are looking for quick fixes, and they're struggling for. They're trying to find the secret cheat code of performance. But actually, it all stems down to the boring basics that just need to be integrated into your process. Yeah,
mate, I love it. Like if we think like the sessions that sort of we've been doing and the training that you've had me doing, like I remember the first couple of weeks I was sending you like a voice note in the morning being like, mate, just hit this, like just hit another PR. I'm competing against myself. Yeah. Like it's given me like what sport used to give me. Like I'm in a battle with myself. It's like I've got to do this extra rep. I've got to chuck another plate on. Like I've got to hit 200 kegs on the sled. Like I've got to mate. No option. Like no option. Like I don't know, be in the gym and be like, I can only push 100 kegs. Like what's going on?
It's worse when you see some old granny come past and push past you, but not happening.
So it's that competition piece. Like the mundane and the boring. Like it might feel like that to somebody else, but to me it's like I'm pushing myself to go up another level. Like I want to be elite. Like I want to be elite at home, like elite for my business, and elite for everybody that comes into contact with me, and in elite condition. But to do that, like we've spoken about a lot, I've got to nail the basics first, in all aspects of training, nutrition, sleep, so that when we push on to the next phase, like I'm ready to go again.
Curious to know your thoughts, because again, reverting it back to sort of the recruitment side of things. I'm not saying you're judging somebody on having a six-pack, but from a performance standpoint, now that you've sort of had this level of awareness around your current performance, is there anything that you've taken from that goes into your, i.e. somebody is, how do they build their capacity? What would you give them? Someone's coming to you for a job. now how would you be a way of building that health piece into their understanding, or is it just a case of, like you said, is it just more on competency? Because I feel like in the industry right now, people are looking for people that have got more ability across different spheres.
Yep.
And there's a direct correlation between your high performance practice and your ability to take on new skills, new anything. Is there anything that you're noticing in the industry right now, or is it that you're using, or is it a case of, do you feel that that's a bit of white space? Because again, being very honest, I think there's something that I've been curious around is the amount of people who go into who have businesses that have got budgets for healthcare, mental health care, and they're struggling, but they don't deal with the direct root cause of the issue, which is, if you actually gave people understanding around it, you're less likely to be off work, less likely to take time off, less likely to be sick, be happier in their job, all that kind of cool stuff. Is there anything that you're seeing in the industry that there's a shift, or do you feel that that's a massive gaping hole?
No, I think there's starting to be a shift. Like, people are starting to take notice. People are starting to educate themselves. If I think about people that are of a similar demographic to me, like in terms of profile, that in the last couple of years have set up their own business, and if I know these people personally, but I also think about some of the content they're putting on LinkedIn. They're very similar to me in that they're training, they're F45, they're the CrossFit, they're High Rocks. They've got the challenge of setting up their own business, but they're now competing against themselves in these types of environments. So I think that there has been a shift of certainly people that are, as I say, similar sort of profile to me in the Northwest that are setting up their own businesses. Like, they're starting to really give a shit and look after themselves and also compete. And they also need an outlet, right? Yeah. When they're full send and they're in their business 24/7, they need a release. But people don't necessarily want that release to be going out on the piss. It's like competing in an Ironman and things like that. And I am starting to see that with sort of CEOs and CFOs across my network as well. People are starting to do more and more of this stuff.
There's a direct correlation with doing hard things, but intentionally. Yeah. And I think the when it comes down to the few, because I'm venturing massively more into that education piece on purpose, just because not one lever does one thing. Like, we may have improved your sleep, but actually, was it your nutrition that improved to help your training? Was it actually the type of way that we were training with you improved your psychological output when you're in times of crisis and all that kind of stuff? I feel that actually those that are intentionally putting hard things into their process directly are able to handle negative context situations and that kind of stuff from a in any context. And it's hard to do, because I think, especially in this day and age, like you said, there's a certain demographic that are wired for it, and it's how do you articulate. I find it on LinkedIn, it's quite difficult. If you speak your mind on there, you've got two sides of the curve. You've got people that, oh, you shouldn't be saying that, or you've got the other, which is like, actually, I totally resonate with it, which again, I think is something that we and you connected on, was being that sort of proverbial outlier of instead of challenge it and challenge status quo. And I think, have you found that there's been a direct correlation with your business growth, that the way you operate, is it different from a different standpoint, or is it just been a case of you guys are just elite at what you do inside of your company, or do you feel it's just more of your attitude, the culture, because you take a human first approach, which is, again, it's something we connected on when we first got in contact together. It was very like this. Yeah, it wasn't like you said. How well is your LinkedIn profile written? Like, you didn't give a fuck about that. It's like, actually, are you a good person? Cool. Can we do business? Yes. I feel that's where the sort of angle that you go by.
Human first, relationship driven, like partnership led. But and that is everything that we do. But when I set the business up, to disrupt a market that has been the same for 25, 30 years. Like, I had to be different. Like, nice. It had to be a challenger brand, and I was already outspoken on LinkedIn. But when I set up Forge, it was like, things have got to go up a gear. Like, I've got to poke holes. Like, I've got to have a pop at people, and I do that. But I'm having a pop at people because I've been in that corporate world and I know what shit actually goes on. So I can say it with confidence. But it was challenge the status quo, be a challenger brand. Like, you want to be the fastest growing business Northwest UK from a finance recruitment point of view. Like, you've got to have a differentiator. Like, if I just went online and posted the same bland shit that everybody else does,
or I'd probably infographics they found off AI.
I'd probably be at like 5 or 6 heads, and we'd be meandering along. It's like, fuck that. That's not what this is about. Like, I want to grow, I want to have fun doing it. You gotta challenge.
Yeah.
Right?
It's such a challenge is such a hard piece of the puzzle for a leadership practice, because like you said, you're very confident. You've had a lot of exposure, so that's given you've had courage to give it a dig, and now you're sort of callous to it. From something that I'm curious about you again, just from how do you personally deal with high pressure situations from a business standpoint, with in an execution standpoint or a crisis standpoint? Because why I ask that question is I feel that's kind of like the dark art of leadership, and that's the dark art of what most people don't see. Because inside my company, when we catch up one-on-one, it's a total unpack of what's actually going on under the hood, what's face value and what's said, you brash and attack and whatever. But it's all about regulation. What do you feel is like the key pieces for leadership right now who are leading companies who are as ambitious as you? How are they dealing with challenge, and how are they manipulating that variable to be in their favour?
If I think back to how I was before I set up Forge, I was reactive. Like, I would lose my shit. Like, if something went wrong, like, I would have a pop. I'd bounce a cup off a wall just for dramatic effect.
Let's go.
I was a bit of a prick.
No judgment, little prick, not a big prick.
I was a little prick.
Just a little weedy prick,
But like, I would react, right? It was emotive, and like, that's absolute nonsense in my opinion. So, like, the evolution of, I think I've changed massively over the years, like in particular with Forge. For me now, something goes wrong, there's a challenge. It's like, right, well, did that person do it on purpose, right? 9 times out of 10, the answer is no.
Yeah.
Right? So what's the root cause? What's the problem? Like, what has actually gone on? How do we learn from it? Like, that is my response to everything now. Like, you could sit down with anybody downstairs. I don't react to shit that goes wrong now. It's like, well, what's the learn from it? Like, rather than get upset about it, how do we be better? How are we better next time? Like, how do we ensure that doesn't happen again? So it's identify the root cause, learn from it, and then put like a process in place so that it doesn't happen again. That is my mindset now, rather than being reactive and getting pissed off and ranting and raving. It's
somebody who can actually utilize stress in any manner. They create space, because space tells the truth.
Yeah.
Like, when you're being reactive, your emotions are taking over. Emotions are a million years old. You got old Scottish emotions, mate. You want to just headbutt people and smash them in the face with an ashtray, mate. Let alone
with a bottle of iron brew.
Yeah, a bottle of iron brew. Yeah, but it's genuine. Your inner warrior, whatever, inner critic, whatever. It doesn't matter what day of the week it is. Depending how good you are, the right or the wrong version comes out. Where if you go away from reacting to, we use like responding or challenge responses, creating that space to actually ask those questions, because people will delete, generalize, or distort information that goes into them. So me and you can be sat in the same situation. Get a usual person in here who's never played rugby to stand at 10 in a rugby pitch at the 78th minute where you've got to pull a play off, mate, they're going to crumble. If someone runs it, they're not going to make a tackle. Same thing in business. Is when it's on the line, that's where you feel alive. But that's because it's not an emotionally driven mechanism. It's an actual performance driven mechanism. Yeah. How did you go about that? How did you learn? Where was the lesson that taught you to think differently? Because I was the same as you. I'm wired for kicking the shit out of someone in rugby, and it was to my detriment. And I've had it for years, where my emotional control was probably the most average piece of my mental toughness. Yeah. Whereas commitment, confidence, challenge, all that cool shit was in there. Yeah. But that control element I found very difficult. What was the catalyst for that for you?
Combination of things, mate. I think having kids. Right,
yeah.
Right. I think like having kids, and like you've got to have a different approach, right? Like, so that's number one. And like, and the kids, Delilah coming along first, like being my little girl, forced me to change my approach to certain things. So that's absolutely it. I think, but when like setting up the business, like there's too much on the line. Like there was far too much on the line, right? I went all in from a cash perspective. PGs with a bank, like PGs with like renting an office, like all that type of stuff. Like if I react in a certain way and fly off the handle with a client, right, well, not going to work with me again. If I fly off the handle with a candidate, right, well, they're going to badmouth me to the industry. If I fly off the handle with somebody in the business, well, they're going to leave, right? And for me, like one thing I pride myself on in my career, I've always been able to take people on a journey. So like if I can make people that 1% better every single day in their job by not being a prick and not reacting in a certain way, like that is going to propel everything forward. But the catalyst is there's just too much on the line.
No.
Like too much on the line for me to get this wrong. Like, I'm here for a good time, not for a long time. Like, I want to grow a business, go on a journey, sell a business, and I just needed to change my approach because it was very much that Wolf of Wall Street-esque approach to everything.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like I just got to make that change.
Massive. I think from what I can understand, is that was forced change. There wasn't like an incident that caused it. It was like I've now got to be bigger, so I have to take this and move forward. Similarly, I had mine was all when I actually had some mental performance coaching when I left rugby, and that totally changed my whole demeanour because the meaning behind why I was so aggressive changed. I was trying to prove myself that I could do it. So if someone challenged me on that proof, it was war. I didn't care who you were. But actually, like you said, it's a game versus me. I never played a game versus me. I had this external validation of like rugby was like, was I good enough? Did I play good enough? Did I make enough tackles? And I took that into my life. After that, I then was like, hang on a minute. This is my game, my rules, on my journey. Why do I have to be? It's exhausting. Yeah, it's absolutely exhausting. And I think it's cool to be part of what we've done is because you're in a very different space when we first started. More from like you built the thing, but you were fucked. Whereas actually, the reality was now you're playing a higher level of the game with more gas, and that comes from your level of self-awareness and be able to manage that. What if you were to look back at when you first started when you first started your company, if you could talk to that person, what would be some of the lessons that you know now that you didn't know then? Because I think that's something that's wicked. I know I'm going back on myself a little bit, but I'm really curious about this because I've had a few people when they listen to my podcast. It's an embarrassing question. They want to ask for help, but they don't know. When you were on the big push to grow, what's some of the biggest lessons that you took away from that?
Listen to people around me. Right, number one, like the majority of people that are around me, like my inner circle is really, really small, and that's deliberate, right? Nice. But listen to people and take on board what they're saying because it's not being said with malice or to challenge. It's with genuine care. Like foot was fully on the gas 24/7. So that number one, like think about every decision that you're making and the impact that it can have, both positive and negative. Like having that decision discipline, I think is huge, and not many people have it. And the other bit would be like working with somebody like yourself. And I'm genuinely not saying that because we're on this podcast and we're working together, but if I knew what I knew now, just from what we've been doing for the last sort of 8 to 10 weeks, back when I first started the business, I would fast forward. Like I'd probably be in my own head like at year 6 instead of year 3.
Mega.
And that's through the process, the metrics, just everything that we're doing. It's because of the lack of education, people don't want to put their hand up and say, right, I need help with this.
Yeah.
And for me, this has been massive.
Mate, no, thank you very much, man. I think that is a poignant point for us to round things off. I feel it's funny, isn't it? Especially when you're wired for war and you're wired to achieve. Most people find it difficult they think help is weakness, where this isn't help. This is just literally, it's like, you know those motor cars that are in the woods that they've got a bloke who's basically driving 300 miles an hour and a bloke's telling him left and right. That's all this is. It's a co-pilot. And I feel a lot of people, what they are doing especially is they're so ambitious that to their detriment, they're willing to push themselves to that absolute edge. And actually, weirdly enough, we love it there. But if you fall off it, that's where we're going. So I feel the big thing that, again, I'm learning this from you as well, is the level of execution that you have is through your routine.
Yep.
And that drives everything for you. And again, for others that are watching and others that are struggling, the main thing that I wanted to get across, especially work with you, is I think what we've demonstrated here is you haven't got this perfect plan. It's like you survive on up to 6 hours of sleep, which our win of our metrics are, if we get an extra 15 minutes a week every day, we're laughing compared to everyone's like, where's this 8 hours? Food, same thing, is living at that optimal level is only going to give you the biggest fruit of your labor. Yeah. And I feel most people, especially like you said, we're looking on especially on LinkedIn, peak levels of performance, where the reality is optimizing performance is that biggest piece. For again, from someone looking in, the last one, it was purely, what would they be feeling right now? They've got this weird, because what happens is they've got this, you don't know that you need help, but you also, you know that something's wrong. What are some of the symptoms you had before we started? Just because what I want to demonstrate is, if someone is on the fence and they're unsure about what this is, what would they be feeling right now that you felt when you first started? And then that would give them a bit of a demonstration about where that was at.
I think for me, like going back to that knife edge analogy, like I will always want to be on it. As much as people are going to hate me saying this, I don't believe in balance. Like I don't. But what I now believe is you need to be able to manage your workload. Like you need to be able to manage yourself properly, and you need to be able to self-regulate. Right. Which I wasn't. So anybody who's watching right now that feels like they are going full tilt 24/7 and they feel fucked. Like get in touch with Will.
Do you know, we could talk about all the high performance and science of it, but layman's terms, if you feel like a fucking run over car, you're struggling.
It's the definition of insanity, right? Is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I trained the same way
forever,
for like 7 or 8 years.
Old school bodybuilders split. We love it though.
Trained the same way, ate the same way, like for a long period of time, like slept the same way, and it's like, if you're doing that and you're feeling as though you're at a point where, fucking hell, I'm gonna come off this edge, like one foot is coming off and I can't afford for one foot to come off, and you might not be able to if you're watching, like think about, well, how can what change can I make, right? And listen to this podcast and get in touch with Will.
Pleasure. No, thank you very much for. I was about to say thank you very much for coming, but I'm in your gaff. If anybody wants to, again, from you, where can they follow you? Especially if you're on social media. I'll say it's important to listen because it's not boring. Where can they catch up with you?
Luke, based in Manchester. Like anybody wants to chat, come and see me in Spinningfields, number 1. But Luke, just hit me up on LinkedIn. I've got a big mouth on there, so
very wide mouth on there. I'll link that in, mate. Thank you very much.
Boom. Cheers, mate.
Top man, legend.